Welcome. Take it up with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Sherri Liebo, who is the CMO from Digital Realty. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here because it's not often I get to talk with folks who run huge data centers around the world.
Yes, yes.
Tell us, I know Digital Realty has over 220 data centers globally, and I'm wondering what are some of the trends that you're seeing in the data center marketplace?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, Jessica. So I would say first and foremost, with all the explosion of data and the use of data, the need to have more and more data centers around the world, and for them to be built so it can accommodate the needs of artificial intelligence, of blockchain, of Internet of Things. All those trends are really driving toward a particular need for a data center that's built for fit for purpose for all of those needs. So I would say that's number one. The second is with all the adoption of cloud, we're seeing both our enterprise customers as well as the cloud providers really look for alternative sourcing options around the world in places where they don't want to build their own data centers or they can't build their own data centers, right? There just is no, they really want to get out of the business of building data centers. And I think a third trend is with all of this explosion of data, we have to be very thoughtful about how we build our data centers. They have to be sustainable because we could just completely consume all the water and power on the planet with our thirst for data. So I think those are really three key trends that we're seeing in the business.
Can you tell me on the sustainability front?
Yes.
And I know a lot of tech companies have an agenda to meet those goals. Maybe a client that has worked with you to source renewable energy?
It's a great question, Jessica. So most of our clients have a sustainability goal. And just very recently, in the last several months, we did a deal with Facebook where we sourced 80 megawatts of solar energy for them to supply their, that helps them with their commitment on renewable energy and what they want to do to really remove carbon footprint, their carbon footprint, or make it smaller. So that's just one example, but we're doing that for a lot of clients all around the world, and we ourselves are looking at how can we have a sustainability goal, like could we be completely green by a certain date, and we're working on that. And that's quite a challenge with, I think we have 1.2 gigawatts, or if you like Back to the Future, gigawatts under management. So that's really quite a goal to get to.
Okay. And as far as the other trend where you are seeing a lot more data usage, so therefore there's just a higher demand of data centers from all kinds of metro cities, right?
Right.
Now, I want to ask about the edge computing because I hear people talk about that edge computing. Does that mean there's just a lot of little data centers?
Yeah, it's a great question. So certainly in the industry, there's this thought about there was initially this thought about, okay, there's tier 1 places where you have data centers, and oh my goodness, you're going to need tier 2 data centers, so that you can get closer to all of those devices that need to connect. Luckily, the perspective that Digital Realty has on that is there will be actually a combination of these little micro transmitting centers that will be there. But honestly, the self-driving car could be its own little data center. It's running around, its own little, artificial intelligent device, making, thousands or tens of thousands of decisions in a split moment. A subset of that data needs to come back to the mothership, if you will, and be used. So what we think there'll be is all of these kind of little transmission, mini transmission centers all out there, and it will come back to wherever the company has a data lake, and those data lakes will indeed sit in those highly urbanized areas. So that's what we see is happening in edge computing. So there's a lot of cool technology. Obviously, 5G is going to impact that substantially. There's lots of really cool startups solving that problem. How do you get the best of making decisions close to that device, like a self-driving car, paired with what level of data can you quickly bring back and to the mothership as it needs to be transacted.
Okay. Now, you came on recently, and you have a ton of experience in marketing from large clients, so like Cisco, for example.
Yes.
So, what brought you onto this journey?
Well, the first thing that the company was looking for is it's really looking to really drive all of new clients coming aboard. A few years ago, it bought a company called Telex, which was very well versed in sort of the smaller footprints, highly connected data centers, and it wants to really grow that business. To grow that business, you need a very strong marketing muscle. You need a very strong demand generation engine. So that was the primary purpose for them to bring me aboard.
Because a pipeline.
Yeah.
It has to be a higher volume of
Yes.
leads, qualified leads.
Yes. And in that space, as with many decisions these days, the studies tell us as marketing professionals that although it's horrifying to salespeople, about 70% of that purchase journey is done without even contacting the client, the vendor,
Yes.
or whoever, like a
The
digital
sales.
realty,
Right.
right? They're not talking to the salesperson.
Yeah, yeah.
And in fact, in conversation after conversation with customers that I have, they're saying, I'm like, what's your purchase process? Well, I do my own research. I check my sources, I Google search, and then I'll get to a list of like 4 or 5 people I want to contact. Oh my goodness. So you need to have your digital marketplace out there, right? You need to have your web presence out there. So, and you need to think about SEO, paid and earned search. How do you use your paid media effectively so that you can catch them when you know that there may not be any salesperson calling on them. So that's a really exciting part of this business that I came on to do.
Right, that's the challenge, is make sure you have the content showing
That's
up
right.
where they're looking.
That's right. Interesting content.
Yes.
And often you have to pay it forward, right? Meaning you're going to have to go to them multiple times with interesting content before maybe they even engage with you.
Right.
So you can't send them my least favorite thing, it happens to me all the time. I download a white paper and I get like 4 messages in 2 days about, oh, are you ready to buy? I'm like, wow, you really don't understand the buying journey.
Right.
So just, pay it forward for a while and maybe I'll come back to you when I'm interested.
Okay, so you're recommending give you some time to read that content, appreciate that content, and then later on ping you.
That's right.
To offer maybe more educational material.
That's right. See you as somebody who is offering up interesting content to make my job easier, and then I'll engage with you for business.
I see what you're saying. Give you something valuable first.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now that you've successfully generated large amounts of pipeline volume, met your goals, what are the other areas like branding,
Yeah.
sales enablement?
Yeah. Exactly those
Okay.
two. So I would say branding, sales enablement, and also we're talking in our company about the voice of the customer 2.0.
Okay.
So how are we creating all these listening posts so we hear more clearly and effectively the voice of the client? How do we do that? But you're spot on. So now my focus is on how do I raise the brand awareness? How do I make sure that we are seen as a thought leader, and how do you build a data center? Like we've got a huge amount of experience in getting from dirt to data center. How do you do it in a modular fashion, cost effective? How do you manage 1.2 gigawatts every year?
Yes.
So that's part of it. And then also sales enablement. It used to be in this business that people are like, hey, I need some data center space. But now it's so interesting. They're thinking about if you're a CIO or a leader in IT, you're actually a service provider to your business, your business units. They're making ridiculous demands on, I want this tomorrow, and it needs to scale at will. So they are really looking to have a different conversation with players out there. A conversation that includes, like, what are the best practices of, like, how do I decide which workloads go where? What's worked for companies in my vertical? So that's really taking the sales force to a different level.
Right.
So I would say that now my mission is on both ends of that, which is, really raising our brand as well as the sales enablement piece.
Right. I see. I mean, clients are asking for the flexibility.
Yes.
Right. And maybe they need help in designing
That's right.
to have those goals.
That's exactly right. They're like, look, you've done a thing or two, right? Why don't you tell us what might work for our business? And that's a really different relationship that we're looking forward to having with our clients.
Talk to me about this NVIDIA partnership that you have. I think it's very interesting where the demand for the intensity, the density is so strong that NVIDIA is a big player in the data center business.
They are. So NVIDIA is a fantastic company, and they've got this program called DGX, which is their next generation. Here's kind of what you need to here's the computing technology that you need to do artificial intelligence applications or to do things like blockchain. And as you know from your experience, there's this metric called like the density of a rack.
Yes.
It's a thing in our industry. Right. And probably a good operating data center has like a density rack of about 8 kilowatts, right? So that's pretty decent. To actually implement this technology, you need something between 15 and 30. NVIDIA went out to its clients and said, wow, even the top clients don't have this level of power density. So they looked around and found folks like ourselves, Digital Realty, and we said, hey, we've got these data centers that can absolutely have the technology around how do you provide high density power? How do you cool that? Like, these things are like emanating a lot of heat. They're on fire. They're doing a lot of cycles. And so we actually are bringing, liquid cooling technologies to bear, as well as how do you have that much power density in that small of a space at scale. And so we're great partners in that. And we look forward to helping NVIDIA's clients really power their digital ambitions by, getting that application in quickly because they don't need to build a new data center to do it.
Right. Oh, that's a great story. I want to ask about the marketing aspect when you look at, say, the enterprise high growth clients that you're trying to attract and serve versus the smaller companies that's more transactional. I'm sure their marketing approach has to be different.
It is. So with the smaller transactional guys, they often just Google search, I need a data center in a particular location. So we have to quickly hook them. A good example is there's a startup that actually is creating systems that make self-driving cars safer. And it's a pretty hot startup. They reached out to us again through seeing that we engaging with our website, and then we quickly got them to the sales team, and they actually trust us to be housing their production environment for that really important application that's really at the center of their startup success. So we're helping make self-driving cars safer by having a trusted place for them to have that technology.
So it seems like when they do a quick analysis, power, cooling, price, location, blah, 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 all of these discrete data points, then they come up with maybe a recommended data center, and Digital Realty might pop up.
Yeah,
I mean that's
we have to pop up through content. So earned search, through paid search, we need to pop up so we can grab that demand, which is fantastic.
I think one of the big driver for marketing has to do with that customer marketing to get references to build credibility.
Yes.
What are you like the different levers that you're pulling, and how do you spend your money, like prioritize?
Yeah, it's a great point, and in fact, the single biggest sales enablement tool I can produce for our sales force is customer case studies, because that gives credibility, right? That gives credibility that yes, not only have we seen a thing or two about data centers, but here's somebody who will attest to our success with them.
Yes.
And so ironically, when I joined, we had very few case studies because sort of the DNA was, well, we don't talk about our clients, right? They don't really want us to talk about them, which was sort of an old message in that industry. And I'm really proud of how we've turned that around. Like, we have a competition amongst the sales team about how many case studies can they get. And really are getting them to start to tell a story that isn't, oh, here's the size of the deal, but here's who this client is, here's what they're trying to do, here's why they chose us, and then at the end, it's how much was the deal. So really getting them to start telling that story and then modeling that back with case studies is we've made a lot of progress there. That
Do
I'm
you
proud
give
of.
the incentives to the clients also?
No, actually, the clients don't actually. I mean, sometimes legally they just can't. You can't tie that to the deal. We do certainly incent the sales force to bring us some of those opportunities, but no, often the clients,
They're just happy to share.
they're happy to share, especially if they have a cool story, because it's as good, especially if they're a smaller brand,
Yeah.
then actually this is a great opportunity for them to get their brand out
True.
there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it's been wonderful to have you on the show, Sherri. Thanks for sharing all these thoughts and letting us know some of the changes. Sounds wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
There you have it, folks. Take it up with Jessica Lee, Sherri Liebo from Digital Realty.